Were last seen alive. A volunteer search group is now looking for help as they plan to search for clues in the 3-decade-old disappearance.
Well, today we're talking more abandoned YouTube channels because there are a lot.
Oh my gosh, there's so many for so many insane, sad, and kind of tragic reasons.
We got some of your suggestions in this video too, so stay tuned.
Starting off our list today with Elliot Rodger, aka the 22-year-old virgin killer, a former YouTuber whose content, which has since been removed from the platform, often revolved around his lack of intimate experiences with women. He described himself as the ideal, magnificent gentleman and often spoke about how he believed he was deserving of, and entitled to, the attention and affection of women. He just couldn't seem to figure out why they had no interest in him. Well, it's probably because they could sense that he was the kind of person who would kill 6 people simply because he was mad no one wanted to do it with him. In the days leading up to May 23rd of 2014, Elliot kept himself busy, maliciously planning what he called the Day of Retribution. On that day, he killed 3 of his male friends inside of his apartment before going on to kill 2 females he saw as the embodiment of women he desired but felt like he could never have. He then drove to a local deli and fired his weapon at several people, one of which died of their injuries. After that, he drove around hitting people with his car before engaging in a standoff with police, after which Rodger was found dead inside of his car from a self-inflicted wound to the head.
Nishu Deswal was an Indian stuntman and YouTuber who tragically died while performing one of his stunts on video. His videos would often feature all these insane stunts performed on tractors, which he would post to the YouTube channel HRPB Tractors. He'd racked up over 1.5 million subscribers before this accident and 1.3 million followers on Instagram. He was very well liked and is sorely missed by his family, friends, and fans. In his final video, while performing a wheelie, the tractor's wheels started to lose traction while the vehicle was at an almost 90-degree angle, and then the tractor started to tilt backwards until it collapsed on top of him, crushing him to death.
Next up, we've got Bianca Davis, an e-girl, Instagram influencer, and YouTube gamer who was killed by a fellow online gamer. In the months leading up to her death, Bianca had started a friendship with a man named Brandon Andrew Clark, who police believe she met through Instagram. The two began a friendship that ended on July 14th of 2019. The pair had been coming back from a concert when they started to argue, likely over the fact that Bianca had kissed their friend Alex while at the show. Although Brandon and Bianca were not romantically involved, and her sister even considered Brandon to be a trusted friend of the family's, one of Bianca's friends always believed that Brandon had an interest in her, and even claimed that he often supplied her with illicit substances to entice her to spend time with him in the hopes of entering into an intimate relationship. The argument ended with Brandon slicing Bianca's neck, which ultimately led to her death. After killing Bianca, Brandon then went on to post images of her dead body on his Instagram with a caption that read, "Sorry, effers, you're gonna have to find someone else to orbit." Using these photos, police tracked him down and arrested him, after which he was sentenced to life in prison.
There's only been one video posted to the YouTube channel Nomadic Statik, and that one video has an incredibly dark story behind it. Gabby Petito and her fiance Brian Laundrie were doing a van life journey across the US. Now, the one video on their channel is a short travel vlog style piece documenting the first leg of their trip. They left on July 2nd, 2021, but by August 27th, just over a week after their first video was posted, things took a turn. Gabby had disappeared. Brian became the #1 suspect when he'd driven back to his parents' home without Gabby and then refused to discuss her whereabouts. It was also discovered he'd been making withdrawals using her debit card. An arrest warrant was issued, but after leaving his parents' home again on September 13th, he was nowhere to be found. But on the 19th, Gabby's remains were discovered. She'd been killed, with the autopsy showing blunt force trauma to the head, strangulation to the neck. It wasn't until October 20th that Brian was finally found. He had taken his own life, and near his remains was a notebook where he'd admitted to killing his fiancée. The two had apparently been having intense domestic disputes, in the months prior. Some of it was actually captured on police body cam footage. Now, one of the most unsettling parts about this case is that you'd never really know what was going on just looking at their video. Everything seems fine, they look totally happy, they're traveling, you just really don't know what's going on behind closed doors sometimes.
Next on our list today, we've got Jake Davison, a former YouTuber who went by the name of Professor Waffle, whose content was centered around complaining about his lack of willpower, drive, and motivation, as well as his thoughts on inceldom. In 2017, the 22-year-old crane operator applied for a weapons certificate, which was granted in 2018, despite the fact that he had previously suffered from various mental health issues. On August 12th of 2021, he used his legally obtained weapon to take the lives of 5 individuals. The first of which was his mother, who he locked inside of the bathroom of their family home before ending her life with the handheld, long-nosed weapon generally used for hunting small game. He then went on to kill the rest of his victims, a father and daughter, a 59-year-old caretaker, and a 66-year-old artist. The entire ordeal lasted a total of 8 minutes. He was then chased down by an unarmed officer before turning his weapon on himself and ending his life just 18 minutes after he ended the life of his mother.
Jared Lee Loughner posted videos to his YouTube channel, Class It Up 10. Every video on the channel is just his text-based manifestos about like anti-government stuff, religion, mind control, conscious dreaming, some new form of currency. It's pretty hard to wrap your head around. Obviously this guy was pretty out there. He also posted a video on another channel of his called Star Hit Schnaz, where he burns the American flag while dressed as the Grim Reaper, and Bodies by Drowning Pool plays in the background. On January 8th of 2011, Jared opened fire outside a Tuscan area Safeway supermarket where Gabrielle Giffords was holding a constituents meeting. She luckily did survive, but she was severely injured, along with 12 others, and 6 people were killed. Currently, he is serving life in prison.
Next up, we've got Stephan McCullagh, a YouTube gamer who in 2023 faked a live Grand Theft Auto broadcast on his channel to cover up the fact that he was busy killing his ex-girlfriend. The killing was obviously planned, as the fake stream had been created 7 days prior to the incident, and it also included numerous Easter eggs that alluded to the crime. One example was that during the stream, McCullagh went on a side mission that involved killing a woman and making it look like an accident. In another example, an image of James Bond with the title "No Time to Die" momentarily flashes on the screen. He also insists several times during the pre-recorded video that he is streaming live in real time, although that was obviously not the case. Instead, he was driving to his ex-girlfriend's house. When he arrived, he entered the home and impaled her with a large blade. He was originally dismissed as a suspect due to his live streaming alibi, but after it was determined that the stream was pre-recorded, he was arrested in 2023 and charged with Man 1. The trial is still ongoing.
Anthony Powell, or Tony 48219 as he was known online, was a YouTuber and student at Mackenzie Fine Arts Center, whose videos mostly consisted of hateful rants against black women and atheists. His videos would become more and more disturbing over the course of his 2 years on YouTube. It was pretty clear that his mental health was continuing to decline, and his channels were constantly being taken down. Wonder why? Then on April 10th of 2009, Powell made his way to a classroom at his school where Asia McGowan was attending class. McGowan was also a YouTuber, and Powell had decided that he just didn't like her. In fact, he had an unhealthy, obsessive hatred of her. He was constantly leaving awful comments on pretty much all of her videos. But today he took things to an entirely different level when he entered into the classroom and fired at her, killing her instantly before turning the weapon on himself.
Next up, we have Randy Stair, who went by the pseudonym Andrew Blaze on his YouTube channel Pioneer Productions. On June 8th of 2017, the young man walked into the supermarket where he worked and carried out a pre-planned attack on his co-workers. He showed up on time for his shift, but instead of getting straight to work as usual, he began blocking the exits of the store, ensuring that no one would be able to get in or out. After he was confident that the area was secure, he reached into the large duffel bag he had brought and pulled out 2 handheld long-nose hunting weapons, which he then used to kill 3 of his co-workers before turning them on himself and ending his own life. A deep dive into Stair's YouTube channel revealed his obsession with mass killings, as well as his plan to carry out one for himself. He described his plan to block the store's exits and target his co-workers in front of surveillance cameras so that the moment could be captured on film. He also mentioned his love for Ember McLean, a character from the cartoon Danny Phantom, which is a great show, but this guy believed he would meet this Amber McLean after his death. So he was just like all kinds of crazy, twisted, but like, you know, screw loose.
Finally, we have Rich Piana. Rich Piana was a YouTuber, businessman, and bodybuilder, if you couldn't tell already. He posted workout videos online, which got a lot of attention, not just because the guy was an absolute mass monster, but because a lot of his training tips were pretty unconventional. Take his 8-hour arm workout, for example. I used to watch Rich Piana's videos. I appreciated how open he was, mostly about his use of certain substances, although who in God's name would ever think he was natural anyway. On top of that though, he was very transparent about the supplements he sold as well, famously talking about how real food was still the better option. Sadly, Piana died on August 25th, 2017. He'd collapsed in his Florida home on August 7th. It was found that his heart was beating irregularly, and though they'd managed to restore it, his brain had been deprived of oxygen for too long, and he fell into a coma before passing away 2 weeks later. His organs were also found to be enlarged. His heart and liver weighed over twice the amount of the average adult male. Side effects from the substances he was injecting. He just took things to the extreme. Another thing about Rich Piana, which I find, you know, really baffling. Actually, it's not that baffling, it's enlightening. He had body dysmorphia himself. He just had this need to constantly get bigger and bigger. He'd talk about this. And you look at him and you're like, really? You have body dysmorphia? Hey, it's a real thing, folks. Anyway, mental health, very important. I hope that we don't do a part 3 of this with future YouTubers who go off the deep end or try to things out. And let's just,
My advice to a lot of YouTubers out there, go to therapy. Just,
seriously.
You know. I've been your host, Hannah Thompson.
I've been your host, James.
See ya.